This video is going to be a film study look at Ardarius Washington, a young safety, fourth-year safety for the Ravens, who played 40 snaps in last week's preseason opener against the Eagles. He's only played 8 games in his career, over a 3-year career at this point, and with the amount of depth that the Ravens have in their secondary, it would be possible, or can't blame anyone if their perspective is, hey, a guy like Ardarius Washington, who was an undrafted free agent 3 years ago out of TCU, he's a name that will just get lost in the discussion. Non-Ravens fans, people that are outside of the Ravens flock, are not going to necessarily recognize Ardarius Washington as a player who could make an impact. Nonetheless, a lot of us are quite excited. I'm going to let some film run from 2023 here. This will be from his cameo, 2-game appearance, week 1 and week 2 last year. Look, just at the safety position, the Ravens have Kyle Hamilton, Marcus Williams, Eddie Jackson, who's a guy with 15 career interceptions. Ardarius Washington's only played in 8 career games. Arthur Millette had a fantastic 2023, but he's obviously currently injured. Ravens brought in 2 rookies as well, Sanusi Kane, drafted late, and then Bo Brad, who was an undrafted free agent. Still have an extremely versatile, tough veteran in Daryl Worley. Washington at this point, 24 years old. I thought he showed some ability last year during that 2-game performance, week 1 and 2, against the Texans and then the Bengals. And like I said, you're seeing some of that film flow through here. He suffered a chest injury or upper body injury. Didn't play again following that road win in Cincinnati. I thought he shined in week 1 against the Texans. He had 6 tackles, 1 sack, 1 pass defensed. Really active and versatile. Generally play in the nickel DB position in the slot to the field. Played over 50 snaps in both of those games. Looked to me really smart, committed, physical, even though he's very small, I think 180, 185 pounds. Smart, versatile defender. Afterwards, after he goes out for an injury, Arthur Millette emerged as just a force. Washington was lined up all over the place last week against the Eagles. Almost kind of a hint for us. I feel like the Ravens were showing the possible role that he could have, maybe as a backup to everyone, because he's so smart, because he's so versatile. Hasn't shown the ball skills yet necessarily in terms of interceptions. Like I said, he played 40, I think precisely 41 snaps against the Eagles last week. We're going to show some of his alignments, not necessarily plays. And the point I'm trying to make is illustrating to you the role he may have for this team if he makes the roster. Playing all over the place in terms of alignment, pre-snap and post-snap responsibilities. This is man-free. One of the passes defensed by Nate Wiggins. Ardarius is playing middle of the field free safety in a typical or traditional 4-man rush, man-free coverage. Half-field safety down here lined up to the right. But you'll see they flip-flopped him sides last week. This is a screen. It ends up being a 3-on-2 in the Eagles' favor. Look, this is just triple option. Conceptually, that's all this play is. And the Ravens are allocating players to each one of those options. The dive back is the running back, even though he's not necessarily maybe taking a downhill path, and you have someone dedicated to that. The quarterback potentially on a keep. Do we have the edge defender, Tavius Robinson, assigned for that? And then this bubble, hitch, whatever you want to call it, to bunch, that's just the pitch. 3 phases to the option. This is just option writ large over an RPO look. I suspect that Ardarius is dropping down here because the back is on this side. So the back is on the same side as the bunch. So I suspect Ardarius is dropping down in this window on the hash to allow the inside linebacker to go with the back. It's all connected. It's all related. So maybe you end up with a slant or something like that. But as it stands, the way it works out, whether it's by call or Ardarius maybe taking 2 or 3 steps too far, which I think is also possible, we end up outnumbered down here. It's a 3-on-2 for the Eagles. I think Ardarius has a great motor, shows great effort. Maybe you can't say he has great range at this point because he hasn't made plays across that range. But there are plays, snaps, where he's on one side of the field by alignment and then ends up way on the opposite side of the field getting involved in a tackle. One of his attributes, I think, that is maybe his best is quick reactions, decisive. I'll show this play multiple times. He's tough, willing to get involved. This is a B-gap run fit. I tried to explain this in video form earlier in the week. It's the second gap in from the sideline. So if there's no tight end, which there's not here, the second gap in from the sideline is B-gap. outside of that tackle C gap. But we'll give you the end zone angle here in a moment. Eagles did us a favor, I think, by this formation. Going trips A to the field. So the running back and the tight end and the trips is all to the field. So there's a little bit less for Ardarius to deal with in terms of no second receiver with his feet in that area, which would generally be a tight end. So he can be a little bit more focused on the offensive line and the window between the offensive lineman, in this case the right guard, right tackle, into the backfield to see the ball handed off. Again, we'll give you the end zone angle so you can see it. B-gap run fit, second gap in from the sideline. We got an open gap there. You can see the very clear view that Ardarius has. And once he's triggered, he's downhill, outside knee, tackle angle or aiming point, which is good because there's nobody else out there outside of him. Even Joe Evans, the outside linebacker, is kind of hemmed inside a little bit or turned inside a little bit because he sees the running back commit there. Another very similar run fit. This one's to the boundary again. It's A-gun, so the tight end running back are into the boundary. So now you have a second receiver over there to the boundary, a little bit different than the previous play that I tried to explain. The second receiver in this case happens to be a tight end. Still 11 personnel, and then you got, I think, Johnny Wilson, the Z receiver, and the running back same side. So Pro Twins A, still a decisive walk read by Washington. He's walking up 8-9 yards at depth, maybe 7.5 as a ball is snapped, that is, committed. Downhill. I will be interested to see if we get more RPOs this week. Meaning we're quick here to the boundary. I'm wondering if we get RPOs to the boundary more often because we're so quick. We're so quick here with our read. He's committed to it. I love it. I don't think Ardarius Washington is looking to confirm with the football. You can see the football hasn't been handed off. He is going with his read, which is the open window created by the down block combo with the left tackle and the tight end base blocking out on Malik Harrison. I'll give you the end zone look after this, running this one more time. I'm interested to see how often we're going to get RPOs to the boundary this week coming up because we're so quick to come down as Ardarius Washington. Other guys, not so much, and I think that's a strength of his, is that he's committed to the read and not the football on these particular plays. You can see he is gone, shot out of a can. He is involved in the tackle. He kind of misses it, but I think it ends up being a 3-yard gain. It's a great read, if you ask me. Multiple people have shared it on Twitter. I think Cole Jackson or someone else shared it on Twitter as well. You got 2 receivers into the boundary, so there's some conflict for him. As soon as that receiver, in this case a tight end, steps out to block and he gets a down block, he's gone. The ball has not been handed off yet here. Clearly, Kenny Pickett could keep it and throw the ball into the boundary. Ardarius has no way of looking into the boundary and seeing whether Johnny Wilson, the Z, is running a route or blocking. I think it's a great example of one of his best attributes, which is committed to his read, and I would call that disciplined. Field side safety, down here to the left now, to the field, to the wide side. It's a 3rd and 17, so they're moving him around a lot. Has he made impact plays in this game? No. Interceptions, passes, defense, not last week. Doesn't have those in his career on the stat ledger. As a player who I guess at this point would be considered a backup across multiple positions, I think he's a good asset. And in the event that Millette is down for a while, or we had an injury scare this week with Kyle Hamilton, Ardarius is a guy who appears capable of fitting in multiple spots on this defense. This is a man situation, I think the 3rd possession, maybe 4th for the Eagles. Man on the tight end into the boundary, possibly contact a little bit early. If you were to say, could he match up with 6'4", 6'5" tight ends? We don't have film of him being able to stop those guys consistently, and the level of play, the level of execution we're going to get from starters is presumably going to be higher. But this is a very similar to read to what we had before. And when I say he's committed to his read and not the football, there's people who say, oh, these guys are all looking in the backfield at the quarterback the whole time. I don't think so. I think Ardarius Washington is responding to his key, to his read. In this case, it's man-to-man, so he should be responding to it. There's other guys who allow themselves to get out. There's other guys on the Ravens team in the past who allow themselves to get outflanked by some of these concepts, particularly little shoot routes out into the flat, because they're staring into the backfield the whole time and not just ping-pong in their eyes, and tight ends or someone will cross their face into the flats. Happened even to our great defense in 2023. I think it's a strength of Ardarius Washington being able to read and react to a key correctly Will he have problems with bigger tight ends if he plays 50 snaps for us? I don't know. Finally, this is a third down sack. I believe the same possession. Pepe Williams on a sack, 10-yard loss. Cool blitz that we're running. We ran it last year with Mike McDonald. And Ardarius is lined up at the line of scrimmage. This is the type of stuff that Kyle Hamilton and Marcus Williams did in 2023, even in 2022. Rolling to center field from the boundary, threatening the blitz, so forcing a particular protection scheme by the Eagles' offensive line, and then rolling to center field and reading 3-2, so inside out on the way. So again, his eyes are where they are supposed to be in almost every situation, if you ask me. Perhaps not the bubble screen to bunch that I showed you earlier. This is a fun drill to do if you've ever coached young players. Now you can see his eyes are back looking at the quarterback for a moment, trying to see if the ball is thrown. I think Ardarius is not just well coached. I think he receives the coaching well. I can't prove that, but to me, he looks like a guy who does things in a really fundamental way. He's small, 185 pounds. I think he tries to match routes extremely well, and I think he tries to do exactly what he's coached to do in every spot. And that's probably, if you accept my offering that they're training him to play multiple positions in the event of injury, that's probably the reason why they're doing that, because he's demonstrated across multiple locations on the field and in practice situations and drills that he's a guy who's willing and capable of doing that. You guys let me know what you thought the film showed. I'm sure other people have broken down his game from last week. We're on vacation, so my recording location is slightly different, so forgive me if you heard me flipping through papers, trying to make it work. But this is a fun one to watch. I think Ardarius is being trained to have a role. How big that role is, how many snaps that role is, I think probably depends on the health of the guys that are clearly in front of him on the depth chart, or maybe even in talent. But I think that there is a role for him on this team, even if everyone is healthy. Probably similar to that Arthur Millette role from last year, where they bring him in particular situations to play nickel or even play to the boundary. I am one that thinks we should be playing more dime looks on 3rd and 7 and 3rd and 8, and less traditional 4-2 looks with 4 rushers and 2 inside linebackers. You guys feel free to let me know what you think of that thought and the plays that I use to try to illustrate how they're training him, or at least the expectation level that it appears the Ravens coaching staff has for him, which I think is quite high. Appreciate you guys' time. If you think other Ravens fans would enjoy this film study video of Ardarius Washington from Week 1 against the Eagles, then please consider grabbing a link to this video, sharing it out on social media to help this content get more reach.